Hello, English learners, and welcome. I'm your host, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to chat about English learning today.
Something we hear a lot from you guys is that uh, while learning English is really exciting and rewarding, there's this kind of stage fright feeling when it comes to actually speaking it,
Yeah.
This nervousness, shyness, maybe even a little fear sometimes, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's super common, like way more people feel it than you might think.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that's exactly what we're going to dig into in this deep dive
Yeah.
based on the stuff you sent us.
Yeah.
We really want to understand that fear,
Yeah.
and give you guys like practical stuff, things you can actually use
Hmm.
to move past it. We want you to walk away from this feeling like, okay, I can do this. I can speak English with more confidence.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, yeah.
So the material you sent over, it kind of breaks down into a few key parts.
Yeah.
You've got like why this fear even shows up in the first place. It seems so common, so we got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Then there's this whole thing about practice and repetition. How does that actually like rewire your brain to not be so scared?
Right.
And then lastly, there's some really concrete tips, things you can start using like right now.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to jump in. Let's start with the first one then. Why is it so common to be like low-key terrified to speak English?
So one of the articles you sent, it talked about this thing called the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And this just seems to be a huge thing for so many people.
Totally. It's that little voice in your head, right? What if I mess up the words? What if my grammar is like totally wrong?
Yeah. That's
What if everyone notices my pronunciation is off? I mean, it can feel so high stakes, you know?
It really can. It almost feels easier to just not talk at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's almost like there's this pressure to be perfect
Yeah.
right from the start.
Yeah.
And that can be really intimidating.
Okay, but think about any new skill. Like one of the sources mentioned learning to walk. When a baby's learning to walk, they're wobbly, they fall down all the time.
Yeah.
But no one's like, oh, you're such a failure, you fell. Right.
It's just part of the process.
It's how you figure it out.
So mistakes, they're not like these huge disasters. They're just feedback. They're like, okay, that didn't work. Maybe try something different next time.
Exactly. They're like little lessons in disguise.
Exactly. Yeah. But then there's this other fear that kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's like, it's less about messing up and more about how other people are going to react.
Right. Fear of being judged.
The fear of being judged. Exactly.
That's a big one.
Like, will people laugh? Will they give me that, like, you're so weird look? It feels really vulnerable to put yourself out there.
Especially when you're trying so hard to communicate in a new language.
Yeah, exactly. Like you already feel a bit self-conscious. You don't want to feel like you're being mocked for not being perfect,
Yeah. But think about it this way. When you see someone trying something new, struggling a bit, what's your gut reaction?
I mean, usually it's like, good for them. They're putting in the effort.
Exactly. Most people see the courage it takes to learn a new language, and they genuinely appreciate the effort to connect. So focus on that achievement that you're trying. It's way more powerful than worrying about a few potential negative reactions.
Yeah, that's true. Most people are actually pretty impressed. Plus, haven't we all had those moments where we totally flubbed our words, even in our own language?
It happens all the time.
Totally. Okay, so we've got fear of making mistakes, fear of judgment, and then there's this other fear, right? The one where your brain just goes, nope, not happening.
The fear of not knowing what to say.
Exactly. Like someone asks you a question and poof, your mind is empty. All the vocab, the grammar, it all just disappears.
The dreaded mind blank. It's like your brain just takes a vacation at the worst possible moment.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's so frustrating. And I feel like this also ties back into that pressure to be perfect.
For sure. It's like you're trying to find the perfect sentence, the perfect word, the perfect answer instantly.
Right.
But here's the thing. Even native English speakers don't do that. They pause, they use filler words like and they take a second to think.
Totally. Sometimes you just need a beat to process.
Absolutely. It's totally normal.
It doesn't mean you don't know the answer or can't express yourself.
Right. And you know what? It's important to remember, and this came up in a bunch of the stuff you sent, this fear, it's not just a language thing. It's like almost everyone feels this way when they're learning something new.
That's actually really comforting to hear.
Yeah. It's not just you.
Yeah.
Even people who are super fluent in English, they get nervous in certain situations. Like, giving a presentation to a big crowd, or talking to someone important.
So it's like it's just part of being human.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Fear doesn't mean you're bad at English. It's just a natural reaction.
Yeah.
And here's the cool part. Every time you feel that fear and choose to speak anyway, you're actually making progress.
I like that.
And over time, and this is something a lot of your sources emphasize, that fear actually starts to get smaller and your confidence grows bigger.
So the takeaway here is that the goal isn't to be perfectly fluent, right?
Right.
Because that's like, I don't know, some mythical thing.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about communicating.
Communicating, yeah.
Your English doesn't have to be flawless to get your point across, to have a real conversation, to connect with another person. It's okay to make mistakes. It's normal to feel a little nervous. The important thing is that you keep speaking, keep learning, keep getting better.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about why this fear exists, but like, how do we actually start to overcome it?
Well, the second big idea in your research was all about practice and repetition, and that's where things really start to shift for a lot of learners.
Okay, cool. So how does that work?
Think about learning to ride a bike. Remember how wobbly and unsure you felt at first? Maybe you even fell a few times.
Oh, yeah.
But you kept practicing, and eventually you got your balance. You got more coordinated. Riding a bike became almost automatic, something you didn't have to think about so hard.
It's true. It goes from this scary thing to something you can do without even really thinking about it.
Exactly. And speaking English is actually pretty similar. It can feel awkward and forced at the beginning, but the more you practice, the more natural and intuitive it becomes. And a huge part of this, and this was highlighted a lot in your research, is repetition. Every time you practice speaking, you're strengthening those connections in your brain that are linked to English. The more you repeat phrases, the more you use the language actively, the easier and more automatic it gets.
So it's like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And this consistent practice, it really tackles the fear of speaking in a few different ways.
Okay, how so?
Well, first, as your sources pointed out, familiarity breeds confidence. The more you practice, the more familiar you become with common phrases, sentence structures, pronunciation patterns. And that familiarity makes you feel way more prepared when you have real conversations, which helps to reduce that whole, what do I say, panic.
Right. Instead of going blank, you've got those phrases ready to go.
Exactly. Secondly, practice gives you a safe space to make mistakes. And even more importantly, it helps you see those mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures. You learn, you adjust, and over time, you make fewer mistakes.
It's like each mistake actually helps you get better.
Totally. And thirdly, the little successes you experience during practice, those can be super motivating. Each time you say a word correctly, use a new phrase, it shows you that you're making progress. And these small wins, they build up your confidence and show you that you can actually do this,
Yeah, it's like getting little pats on the back along the way.
Exactly. So let's talk about some easy exercises you can use to practice speaking. One really simple one is just talking out loud to yourself. Like, describe what you're doing as you go about your day.
Okay.
Like, I'm making breakfast, I'm checking my email, even just verbalizing your thoughts. It's a beautiful day, I'm feeling hungry. Even those little sentences are great practice.
That sounds way less intimidating than trying to have a full-on conversation with someone.
It is. It is. Another super helpful exercise, and this was in one of your articles, is to record yourself speaking. Like, pick a short paragraph or a few sentences from a book, read it aloud, record it, then listen back.
Okay.
It might feel a bit weird at first, but it helps you pinpoint what you could improve, like your pronunciation or how smoothly you speak. Then record it again, focusing on those things. You'll actually be able to hear yourself getting better over time.
Yeah, I like that. It's like getting objective feedback on your speaking.
Right. And of course, there are all those language learning apps out there, Duolingo, HelloTalk, Cambly, tons of them. They've got interactive, fun ways to practice speaking. Even if you just spend 5-10 minutes a day on it, it can make a big difference over time.
Making practice fun is key, for sure.
Totally. Another good trick, especially for pronunciation, is to repeat things you hear native speakers say in videos or podcasts. Watch a little bit, then pause and try to copy their rhythm and pronunciation exactly. It's like how little kids learn language, by copying.
That makes sense. You're like immersing yourself in the natural flow of the language.
Exactly. And lastly, try doing some role-playing. Like, imagine you're ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, introducing yourself to someone new. Practice those situations out loud. It helps to reduce the anxiety when those situations actually happen because you've already rehearsed them in your head.
Like a mental dress rehearsal.
Precisely. And the biggest thing to remember with all of this is consistency. 5, 10 minutes every day is way better than an hour once a month. You don't have to be perfect every time, just keep engaging with the language. And as we talked about, practice leads to progress. You'll get more confident, the fear will lessen, mistakes become stepping stones, not stumbling blocks, and the words and phrases that felt hard will start to flow more naturally.
So lots of practice, lots of repetition.
Got it.
Now let's talk about those confidence boosting tips. We've talked about the fear, we've talked about practice, but are there like specific things you can do to just feel more confident when you actually speak English?
Absolutely. And a lot of the advice in your materials boils down to starting small.
Okay, I like that. Start small.
Like, ease yourself in.
Yeah.
Start by speaking with people you feel totally comfortable with.
Yeah.
A friend, family member, a teacher who's super supportive,
Right.
someone who won't judge you. When you feel safe, it's way easier to speak more freely.
That makes sense. Like, don't throw yourself into the deep end right away.
Exactly. You can start by just chatting about your day, practicing basic small talk. And if you don't have someone to practice with in person, there are apps like Hello Talk or Tandem that can connect you with other learners and native speakers who are looking for practice partners.
Oh, cool. Like a language exchange, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when you're talking, especially if you're feeling nervous, stick to simple sentences. There's no need to try and use fancy words or complicated grammar, especially when you're just starting out. As you get more comfortable, you can gradually expand your vocabulary and use more complex sentences.
Okay, so start simple, build from there.
Exactly. Another helpful tip, especially for situations that you know make you nervous, is to prepare little scripts for common scenarios, like introducing yourself, asking for help, ordering food. Just write down a few basic phrases and practice saying them out loud a few times. That way, when you actually need to use them, you'll feel way more confident and less pressured in the moment.
So it's like having a safety net.
In a way, yes. It takes some of the mental pressure off. Another super important thing is to celebrate your small wins. Confidence grows when you recognize and appreciate your progress, no matter how small it seems. Did you use a new word correctly today? Awesome. Did you have a short conversation? Even if there were a few pauses, that's great. Make a point of acknowledging and rewarding yourself for those achievements, even if it's just with a mental pat on the back.
It's all about recognizing and valuing every little step forward.
Exactly. And just as important as celebrating your successes is managing your inner critic, that voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough. A lot of the fear of speaking comes from negative self-talk. So you've got to consciously work on replacing those negative thoughts with positive, encouraging ones. Instead of thinking, I'm going to make so many mistakes, I'm going to sound stupid, try thinking, it's okay to make mistakes, that's how I learn. Instead of, my English is terrible, try, every time I speak, my English is getting a little better.
Wow, yeah. Reframing those negative thoughts can really make a difference.
It really can. Another powerful technique is visualization. Like, before you have to speak English in a situation that makes you nervous, close your eyes for a minute and imagine yourself speaking confidently. Imagine the words flowing easily, the person you're talking to understanding you, the whole interaction going well. This kind of mental rehearsal can really reduce anxiety and help you feel more prepared and self-assured.
It's like a mental practice run.
Exactly. And setting small, achievable goals is another great way to build confidence. Instead of thinking about this huge goal of being fluent, break down your learning journey into smaller, manageable steps. That way, the whole process feels less overwhelming, and you get those feelings of accomplishment more often. Set a small goal for the day, like asking one question in English. Set a goal for the week, like learning and using 3 new words in conversation. These small, consistent efforts really add up, and you'll see a real difference in your confidence.
It's like creating momentum.
Exactly. And always remember, the goal of speaking is to communicate, not to be perfect. You want to get your message across, not sound like a native speaker right away. Most people will appreciate you trying to communicate in English, even if you make some mistakes. So focus on being understood, not on having perfect grammar. A small grammar mistake usually won't stop someone from understanding what you're trying to say.
It's about clarity and understanding, not perfect grammar.
Absolutely. Here's a quick exercise you can try right now just to boost your confidence a little bit. Choose a simple phrase in English like, nice to meet you. Say it out loud 3 times, slowly and clearly. And try to smile as you say it. Smiling actually helps you feel more relaxed and confident. Then try to use that phrase with someone you meet today. Starting with something small and manageable, Using simple language and focusing on communicating successfully, that's how you build confidence. And always remember, everyone learns at their own pace. Focus on your own progress and don't compare yourself to others.
Okay, so we've talked about starting small, practicing regularly, celebrating those wins, and reframing those negative thoughts. What about the environment you practice in? Does that matter?
Oh, it absolutely does.
Okay.
Feeling safe, comfortable, not being judged, that's super important for improving your speaking and growing your confidence. If you can practice in a space where you don't feel pressured or criticized, your confidence will just naturally blossom.
So how can people create or find those kinds of supportive spaces?
One great way is to join language clubs or conversation groups. There are tons of them, both local and online. You can find them on platforms like Discord, Facebook groups, even Reddit. These groups are awesome for meeting other people who are also learning English or native speakers who want to help learners practice. They're usually super non-judgmental and encouraging. It's all about helping each other get better, not about being perfect.
Sounds like a built-in support system.
Exactly. Another great option is to practice with friends or family members who are also learning English. It's a really comfortable and supportive environment, especially if you set some shared goals and agree to give each other kind and constructive feedback. You can even try practicing with kids. They're often really curious and less likely to be critical of mistakes.
Yeah, kids are usually pretty accepting. They don't judge as much.
They really don't. You can also look for a language partner online through language exchange platforms. They match learners with native speakers and usually help each other learn your native languages. When you're picking a partner, try to find someone who says they're patient and understanding with learners, someone who seems genuinely interested in helping you improve. A good partner will give you gentle corrections and celebrate your achievements with you.
So it's like finding a language buddy.
Pretty much. It's about finding someone who's invested in your learning journey. Another helpful tip is to practice speaking in low-stakes situations, like everyday places where it's okay to make mistakes. Ordering coffee, asking for directions, chatting with a store clerk. You can also practice speaking to yourself in English, like when you're alone in front of a mirror. It helps you get comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English, which can reduce anxiety when you talk to other people.
It's like getting used to how you sound.
Exactly. Technology can also be super helpful for creating a safe practice space. If you're not ready to talk with other people yet, you can use apps and tools to simulate conversations or get feedback without the pressure of talking to a real person. Recording yourself speaking, like we talked about earlier, lets you focus on your pronunciation and fluency without worrying about being judged. Speech recognition apps can give you instant feedback on your pronunciation. And you can even practice with chatbots that are designed for language learners so you can have a conversation without any judgment.
That's a really good point. You can practice and get feedback without having to actually talk to another person.
Exactly. And when you do start talking to other people, especially fluent or native speakers, it's totally okay to be upfront about your level. Don't be afraid to say that you're still learning and ask them to slow down or use simpler language if you need them to. Most people will understand and be happy to help. You could even have a phrase ready like, "I'm still practicing my English. Would you mind speaking a little slower, please?"
That's smart. Setting expectations from the start can really help.
Definitely. And finally, seek out supportive communities, online and offline. There are tons of groups specifically designed to encourage and support language learners. You can find them in the comment sections of helpful YouTube channels, in language learning groups on WhatsApp or Telegram, or on online forums where learners share their experiences and give each other tips and encouragement. The bottom line is creating a safe and supportive environment doesn't mean you'll never feel nervous, but surrounding yourself with understanding and encouraging people and resources makes speaking English way less stressful and more fun. Remember, making mistakes is normal, even for native speakers. The important thing is to focus on making progress and feeling more comfortable over time.
I love that. It's all about creating a positive environment for learning. Okay, let's move on to our last key area for this deep dive. It's one thing to make progress, but it seems like actively celebrating that progress is really important for staying motivated and confident.
It's absolutely crucial. Celebrating your wins, no matter how small, is one of the best ways to stay motivated on your English learning journey. Every time you acknowledge a step forward, it reinforces your confidence and keeps you going.
So what are some good ways to keep track of your progress and reward yourself for all that hard work?
One great way is to actually keep a record of your achievements. Seeing how far you've come can be really motivating. Start a language learning journal where you write down your goals and all your small victories. Things like, "Today I asked for directions in English," or "I understood a short news report." That journal becomes a tangible record of your progress. You can also break down your learning journey into smaller milestones, like setting a goal to learn a certain number of new words each week, or being able to have a short conversation on a specific topic without translating in your head. And like we talked about earlier, recording yourself speaking and listening to those recordings over time is a fantastic way to actually hear your progress. You can hear how much your pronunciation and fluency have improved and how much more confident you sound.
That's a great idea. It makes the progress real, something you can see and hear.
Exactly. And you should definitely reward yourself for all your hard work. Learning a new language takes time and effort, and it's important to recognize and appreciate that effort. Give yourself little rewards after a good practice session or when you hit a milestone. And for bigger accomplishments like finishing a course or having a longer, more complex conversation, plan a bigger reward. Don't underestimate the power of sharing your successes with supportive friends and family or in online language learning communities. Hearing people say, "good job," can be super motivating.
It's all about creating positive reinforcement.
Exactly. And remember to celebrate progress in areas beyond just getting perfect scores on tests or mastering tricky grammar rules. Celebrate things like understanding a conversation without needing to look up every word, confidently asking for directions, or noticing yourself naturally using new vocabulary in your everyday life. Those are huge wins. They show you that your English is actually helping you navigate the world around you.
It's about seeing how your English is making a difference in your life.
Absolutely. Make time to reflect on your journey. Think about where you started and how much you've improved. How many new words have you learned and started using? Are there topics you can now talk about in English that you couldn't before? Do you feel even a little bit more confident about speaking, even if you still make mistakes? Taking the time to reflect helps you appreciate how far you've come, which can be really encouraging.
It's easy to get caught up in how much you still need to learn and forget about all the progress you've already made.
It's so true. And remember, even small steps, when you take them consistently, they lead to big changes over time. Learning English should be enjoyable. Celebrate every success, no matter how small. Making a habit of celebrating your wins makes learning more fun and keeps you motivated in the long run.
I love that. Okay, this has been such a helpful and insightful deep dive into understanding and overcoming the fear of speaking English. It's really comforting to hear that feeling nervous is normal, it's not just me, and that there are so many practical things you can do to build your confidence.
Absolutely. And the biggest takeaway is that feeling nervous about speaking is a normal part of learning, but it's temporary. With consistent practice, small steps, and patience, your confidence will grow.
So, to recap, we talked about why we feel afraid to speak English,
Hmm.
the power of practice and repetition, practical tips for boosting confidence, the importance of a safe and supportive environment, and celebrating your progress.
Exactly. Each of these pieces plays an important role in becoming a more confident and fluent English speaker. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection. It's about expressing yourself and connecting with others. Every word you speak, even if it's not perfect, gets you closer to your goals. Every day you practice, you're moving forward.
Don't let fear stop you from experiencing all the good things that come with learning English. Think of that nervousness as a sign that you're challenging yourself, pushing your boundaries, which is where growth happens.
And to get you started, think about which of the tips we talked about today resonated with you the most, and then try to put just one of those ideas into practice today. Even a small action can make a big difference in building momentum and confidence.
I love that. That's a great way to end this. Thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing advice and insight. To everyone listening, remember, you can do this. Keep practicing, stay positive, celebrate your progress, and we'll see you next time on the deep dive for another fascinating exploration.